Hello, hello, ¿cómo están todos? Buenas tardes.
Hi,
Ya,
Iris.
hi, how are you, Ana? Ya
Happy
estamos
Monday.
11, ¿lo pueden creer? Semana Santa, ya va a ser este fin de semana, comenzando el jueves. Va todo así como que todo súper lento, todo súper lento.
Todo el mundo anda en la playa o ya en los pensamientos en la playa.
Ándale, ándale. Ya ahorita ya como que todo el mundo está diciendo la semana va a ser corta, 3 días nada más y bye. Hasta el próximo
Los
lunes.
niños en la escuela, ¿hasta qué día van a la escuela?
El jueves, todo el jueves.
Todo el
Ajá,
jueves.
o sea, deben de estar en clase todo el jueves.
Ok.
Mi esposo también, o sea, trabaja el jueves. O sea, realmente sería como que viernes, sábado, domingo.
Viernes, sábado, domingo.
Sí, pero bueno, este día festivo, o sea, en México, la gente ya está ya desde el fin de semana pasado.
Domingo de Ramos, ¿no? ¿Qué fue?
Exacto, exacto. ¿Y qué plan tienes, Anita? ¿Qué vas a hacer ahora en Semana Santa?
No tengo planes. Tal vez me voy a Reynosa con unos tíos, no sé todavía. Ahorita salió una junta en corporativo que a lo mejor no sé, estamos viendo si va Pati, si voy yo. Todavía no sabemos, estamos ahí
¿A
viendo
Miami? ¿A Florida?
a Florida, Fort Lauderdale, el corporativo está en Fort Lauderdale.
Qué
Sí,
padre. Ojalá que te toque.
¿verdad? Long
Qué
weekend.
Qué padre, ya sé. Okay. Well, everybody, friends, thank you for being with us today. We're live. If you have any questions about real estate or lending, we are the experts. And the reason why we're here and after hours real estate show today is, well, first of all, is to give you value, right? The way you know and you ask us questions and you're informed in order to get your next home or to sell your home. So we're doing this series. Today we're in step number 2. Is what are the 13 steps to buy a home? So step 2 today is how much house I can afford, right? How do you determine how much house you can buy? Because of course, we always want the house that is the most expensive or the biggest one, right? But not necessarily we're going to be comfortable with those monthly payments, which is very important for you to think about. So Anna's gonna be here talking to us today. I know she's an expert and she's gonna let us know how can we determine that value. I mean, can I buy a 300, a 100, a 200,000? What is it that I can buy? So Anita, what can you give us value?
Okay. So I think everybody has heard of debt to income ratio.
Yes.
The debt to income ratio is basically how much debt you have as compared to the income, and it has to be the income that we use in the application. We call it effective income.
A ver, debt to income ratio, we also call it DTI. Just
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
you hear DTI, we're
Mhm,
talking about debt to income ratio.
mhm.
Just giving you some notes there for everybody who's watching.
So
Okay.
for the debts, we're gonna include the debts that are on your credit. So it's gonna include like your credit cards, your automobiles, your furniture, any installment loans, student loans, any debt that you co-sign for somebody else. If you have properties, land or homes, if they're not paid off, the mortgage would be included in the debt. If
Okay.
they're already paid off, we'll include the taxes as a debt and insurance as a debt if you have insurance. Some people have a land and of course you don't need insurance on land, or sometimes they have a house that's paid off and they're like, I choose not to have insurance. That's okay. We don't have
Okay.
to count it.
Okay. So
Uh,
commercial properties, taxes, insurance.
mhm.
Okay. If it applies, because you might already have paid for them. Of course,
Uh,
taxes, we can always pay taxes, right?
but taxes are always a debt, so we're always gonna include them. You're
And and Anita, you mentioned credit cards, automobiles, loans. What else?
So on for example, credit card, a lot of times when I ask a customer, they're like, I'm not ready to pull my credit, but can you tell me more or less how much I'll qualify? And I say, sure, tell me what your debts are. And they say, I have a credit card of 5,000 and I have another. And I'm like, no, no, no. I don't care about the balance. I care about your monthly payment because all we're going to consider is the minimum monthly payment. So
Okay.
if the bill says that you need to pay $30, that's what we're going to count. And
Ah,
some people say, well, the minimum is 30, but I sent 200. I'm still going to count the 30. You know?
okay. So
The minimum that's required.
okay, the minimum that is required, everybody.
on the debt, on the credit cards.
The credit card minimum that is required.
On
Okay.
student loans, there's a lot of student loans that are not yet on a repayment plan. They're deferred. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for student loans, depending on the type of loan that we do, we still have to count a payment on it, either 0.5% or 1%. So let's say that if it's $10,000, we'll count $100 minimum payment. If we're doing the 1%, if we're doing 0.5%, we'll do $50. But we still have to count payment. Some people say, well, it's deferred. It doesn't matter. The guidelines say that we still have to put a payment because eventually you may have to still pay it.
Okay. Okay.
If
So
you have debts that are co-signed, let's say that you sign for somebody else, a family member, also, depending on the type of loan, we may be able to exclude the debt, not count it. If the other party that is paying the loan has paid it for 12 months and we have proof of it. If the other party is paying the other debt cash and there's really no trace that they're the ones paying it, then we cannot omit it.
okay, okay. So
Yes.
then debt to income ratio. So basically, we're talking about credit cards, automobiles, loans. And of course, on the credit cards, they only take into account not what you owe in total, but only the minimum payment. So if it is $25, $50, that's how much really you owe. And
Mhm.
then on the student loans is 0.5% or 1%, even though it is
Correct.
deferred, because
Correct.
I mean, we're gonna continue paying them once it comes back, right?
Yes. We also count child support
Uh-huh. As an income, right?
as
As
a
money.
debt. So
Okay.
well, if you're paying child support, then we'll also count the debt.
Okay, okay, okay. So if
So
you're paying, it's a debt for you. But if
yes,
you're receiving, if you are, let's say, a mom in this case, okay, then you have an extra source of income.
yes, correct. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what encompasses debt. The debts are gonna be anything that shows up on the credit and maybe properties are not on credit but that you own.
Okay.
Um, besides that, we also count the new house payment as a debt. So
Mhm.
we're gonna add, let's say that when you add your vehicle, your credit card, your student loan, it adds up to $800 of debt a month.
Mhm.
But then we say, okay, the new house payment is $2,000. We're also gonna put it as part of the debt in that fraction.
So now they owe 2,800.
2,800, yes. So
Okay.
then on the income, what income are we going to use? We're going to only use income that they're currently receiving and income that's likely to continue. So for example, if you're working a job, a W-2 job, we're gonna take an average of your income. We do not count per diem. Per diem is not taxable, so we cannot use it.
Mm.
If you get a bonus at work, but this, let's say you've been working at the same company for 5 years, but this is the first year you get a bonus, we cannot count it because since you don't have history of having it in the past, we just don't know if it's likely to continue in the future.
Okay.
The
So
same for overtime and commission.
it basically has to be stable, right?
It
I mean,
has to be, yes. The guideline says that it needs to be likely to continue. Most of the time, it says 3 years. It's hard to know if somebody's going to be in a job for 3 years or not. So
yes.
as long as it's likely to continue and you received in the past, then we can assume you're going to get it in the future.
Okay,
A,
okay.
a big, I guess, issue.
Misunderstanding? Myth, legend?
Yeah, like for example, sometimes I get a customer and I call and I say, okay, what's your income? And sometimes they say $8,000, and I'm like, oh, that's great.
Yes.
But then when I ask them for documentation, the W-2 for 2020 and for 2021 are 17,000 for the entire year.
Mm,
Basically, like they work like 2 months. So
okay.
then I ask them, okay, you mentioned in the application you make 1,000, but I noticed that in the last 2 years you made 17,000. What happened?
What is it? Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, I didn't work because of COVID. I was laid off all year. Well, in that case, then your income is not 8,000 because if you had owned a house last year, we were expecting you to make payments, and maybe with 17,000 you wouldn't have made it. So in that case, they ask us to average the income over the
Uh,
2 years. So
okay.
that's an iffy, and sometimes it's hard to swallow because
Swallow.
sometimes a customer like, I'm making 8,000, you tell me you don't
Mhm.
qualify,
Mhm.
or is it because the last 2 years really really affected you?
Okay, so then for our friends that are listening to this, how do they determine that they determine, right, that they can buy a house? Let's say we're seeing right now houses in the 260, at least 260 range to 300 if you're talking about a 3 to 4 bedroom newer construction with a good size lot. So let's say a 260 home. Okay, so how much money do I have to make? I already know that my debt is already 2,800. No, it's $800. But I want to buy a $260,000 home. So how much money me and my husband have to make in order for be able to buy a $260,000 home?
So there's a lot of things that we check. There's gonna be two fractions. We check the what we call the debt to income ratio, which includes all your debt and the house. That's one, and
Mhm.
the other one is your housing expense ratio, which is just your house compared to your income. So I wish we could do like a whiteboard on this
I
thing.
know. Do you mean like light water
Like
and
live, yeah. I don't know. So
uh,
let's say that the house, just the house, let's say when we come up with the payment, the house is $2,000. The housing expense ratio as compared to your income, we want it to be in the 30s%.
Mhm.
Once in a while we get it past to a 40%, but usually you want it to be very low. So what does that mean? That if your house payment is 2,000, then you need to make around, I would say about 5,500 for that first ratio to be okay.
Okay, so 55,000 a year I will have to make.
A month, 55 a month.
55 a month.
But
Okay.
that's on the first ratio. We have
Okay.
to count two.
Okay.
Then the second ratio is your income and the incomes including the house and your debts. So let's say that now the house is 2,000. Let's say your debts are 2,800. That the second fraction usually needs to be 50% or lower if it's conventional, or the maximum is like 55% on FHA. But let's say 50. So
Mhm.
then if your house is 2,000 and the debts are 2,800, then the total debt is 4,800, correct?
Yes, for
4,800.
800.
So
Yes.
then that's 50%. So you need to multiply it times two. So that means your monthly income needs to be 9,600.
Okay. So then you have a debt of 800. My monthly payment, no, I have a debt of 2,800 because the house is 2,000 a month.
No, well, if you include the 2,000, if you include the 2,000 in the house, then you need to make 5,600.
Oh, okay, 5,600. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so then if I make, so let's say just to have an idea, if I make $50,000, then can I afford to buy a $260,000 home?
If you make $50,000 divided by 12 months, it's 4,100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that the first ratio is like a 32 times 0.32. That will leave you $1,300 for a house payment. So
Mm-hmm.
no, more than likely will be a house of maybe 170.
170. Okay.
So
So
then
then,
you need a bit of more income. Maybe you need a cosigner, or
mhm,
you need to get rid of a little bit of debt if you have debt.
okay. Okay. So then you have options. I mean, one of them is get rid of a debt, right? Maybe in a month or two, right? More or less, we'll see a change in your debt to income ratio. Or you can combine also the what is it, the wages of your husband, let's
you,
say.
you can get a co-signer. It can be a friend, it can be a partner, a parent, a child. So you
Okay.
can maybe somebody else that has income and less debt can help you co-sign.
They help
So
you.
I
Okay.
guess what I can say about the debt to income is that it's not very white, black and white. It's a
No.
lot of gray and there's a lot of interpretation.
Yes.
Why? Because let's say that we tell you that you qualify for 250,000, but you know that two houses at 250 are going to have different payments. Why? Because insurance is different, taxes are different, HOA fees are different.
Mhm.
So it's
They're approximate rates.
they're estimates, yes.
Exactly, they're estimates. So then now we know that we need to keep our debt low, okay, as much as possible. Okay. And of course, you need to be consistently, at least for a year, I will say, I mean, a lot better 2 years. I mean, consistently making a certain amount. But if you know that you need a little more income to qualify for more, then you can get a cosigner or you can add your husband's income.
Mhm.
Now, Anna, I know that this always comes, right? But let's say that I do have the money, I have the employment, I have the cosigner, but my credit is not that good. Is that going to affect also the amount that I qualify?
So if your credit has to be at least the minimum that's required. So
620.
on on conventional and VA is 620, on FHA is 580.
Oh, yeah.
But if your credit is 580 to 620, be prepared to pay more because
Okay.
your closing costs are more.
Yes.
But
Okay.
we can still do it. It's just be prepared that it's gonna cost you.
I
Um,
mean,
but if your credit is below the 580, then even though you have great employment, great income, we still have to work on your credit to get it above the 580.
okay, so then listen to that. I think that's the key right there. I mean, you may have the employment, you may have the money saved, right? You may have a low debt, but if your score is low, you will still have to wait. I mean, or work on your credit. Let's say pay some debts, that way your credit can go up at least a month or two. I don't know. We've seen 2 to 3 months, right? That is usually what it takes to see a change.
Mhm. On
Okay.
self-employed, let me talk about self-employed because we do get a lot of
A
self-employed
lot of
calls.
yes.
So on self-employed, if they declare their tax returns differently.
Mhm.
One very common is a Schedule C, which is for people that have small companies like a DBA or something local where they haven't opened an LLC or anything like that. If they file as a Schedule C, on the top of the Schedule C, you will see like receipts. What are your sales?
Okay.
And then on the middle, you're gonna see your expenses. And on the very bottom, it's gonna say profit or loss. So a lot of times on self-employed, people tell me, "Oh, I report 1 million. Oh, that's great." But
Mm.
then they have $900,000 of expenses. So in
Ah,
reality, their profit is just 100,000. So
yes.
so we go with the bottom line, the very line that I think is line 31. That
Okay.
is the profit and the loss, and that's what we use. So on self-employed, just be mindful. The
Mm.
more expenses you have, the less profit you're gonna report.
Yes.
That's what we're gonna use.
Yes, we get those questions a lot, and a lot of people are waiting because I understand, right? I mean, sometimes you have a lot of losses, so then you don't qualify at the moment. But now you know that if you, I mean, keep a little bit more, then you will be able to qualify for a home soon. So
Yes.
today, everybody, it was debt to income ratio. Okay, that would be well, not debt to income. How much house I can afford, and all of this is based on your debt, right? With the money that you make, and a little bit also, well, a lot on the interest rate, not interest rate, on the credit, right? It's very
Interest rate too.
oh
People
yeah. Okay,
that
so I got it
that
right.
yes, you got it right. So people that apply, I don't know, 6 months ago,
Yes.
qualify for maybe 220, and then people that are the same person comes back today, maybe instead of 220, maybe they qualify for 210, a little bit less. Why? Because the rates are going higher.
Going higher, yeah. So then we keep getting. I mean, we're gonna. You don't have any questions about this or anything else, Anita, that you want to add, or some kind of advice for our friends that are listening to this? How much buy I can get? Because they always ask me, "Can you tell me how much house I can buy?" You know,
Yes.
that's one of my.
So basically, just roughly take your monthly income, divide it by two.
Okay.
From there, subtract all your monthly expenses that are on credit.
Okay.
Then the money that you have left over, that's the maximum payment you can have on a house.
Okay, that is very good. So, and that is easy. Do you hear that? So then what you make, you're gonna divide it by two, and then you're gonna subtract what you have on credit. So anything on your credit card, right? But I mean, not what you owe, not the $5,000 that you owe, on your monthly payment. So let's say $50, okay?
Mhm,
And then you add anything else that you have on credit. Like I have on credit light, water, whatever, anything that I can put on credit, I do. So
mhm.
then
But if you opted to put your light and your water on credit, because some people are using it for experience, so they boost their credit, those we don't count.
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
like some people put their telephone or their electricity on Experian for Experian Boost, I think they call it. We don't count those. So
Okay,
so only credit cards, student loans, automobiles, installment loans, child support, taxes on property, houses, mortgages,
okay.
only stuff that it really needed to be on credit. If you elected to put it, that doesn't count.
Okay, okay. So then it will be even better. I mean, it's gonna work out better for you, right? I
Yes,
mean, it's gonna look better. I mean,
yes.
that's a lot easier what she just, I mean, what Anna just said, right? So you just multiply by two, right? And then
Divide
divide
by
by two,
two.
and then you subtract your debts, but not like I said, like water and stuff like that. No, just
No.
automobile, credit cards,
Mhm,
loans, taxes on property that you may
mhm,
have,
mhm,
mortgage, if you
mhm,
have another property that you're still paying. So
mhm.
whatever amount you are left with, that will be the monthly payment of a
The
home.
the maximum monthly payment on a home. So let's say that your payment is 1,000, then you can roughly know that you're not gonna qualify for 400,000
No.
because a thousand payment is not gonna be for four. But maybe you can be in the ballpark and say, oh, I wanted 115, maybe I'm around there. So at least you can get a ballpark of whether you're in the right track, or maybe you should wait and pay off the vehicle or pay off the student loan or pay off something so you can qualify for more.
Anna, do we still go by how we used to in the past, where they would used to ask me, so if the house is $200,000, is it like 1% your monthly payment, like $2,000 will your monthly payment be? More
If
or
it's
less?
200, it will be less than that.
Less than 2,000. Okay, so
Yes.
then less than 1%. So then when we tell you 1% of the value of the home, it's probably less, and it's already including the insurance, right? And what else? Taxes.
Property taxes, yeah.
Property
So
tax.
it's if you're doing that, then you're safe. You're doing a safe way
That's
of
safe
doing it.
bet.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're very conservative.
Yes, very conservative. Okay, so all of it is step number two of our series. Remember, friends, we're an after hours real estate show. We're following, I mean, how to buy a home, and we have 13 different steps. Today was step number two is how much house I can afford. Any questions that you may have, or you want to talk to us directly, you can find us all over social media. You know how to find Ana Cabrales with Cabrales Mortgage. You know how to find me. Let us know you have any questions. And next Monday, we're gonna go with step three. Let me see. Step three, if I'm not mistaken, is gonna be, hold on. I'm looking
I
at
want to
the
know because you don't give me a lot of heads up, so that way I can prepare.
That's true. Step three is save for a down payment and closing costs. So we're gonna go
Oh,
into detail about down payment and closing costs. That's gonna be step three. So we see everybody next Monday, and let us know you have any questions. Thank you for being with us, and Anna, thank you for all these
thank you.
golden nuggets. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.